Podcast of the year goes to That Peter Crouch podcast. Well done, gentlemen. The big man's not here, but you're big enough, Steve. How you feeling?
Yeah, really, really good. It's really nice to win stuff, and it's a shame the three lads couldn't be here because they're much busier than we are. But yeah, it's nice to have to go on stage. They could have left it. Was it 10:30 almost? We've had to stay off the booze for about 45 minutes now, so we're looking forward to getting back on that.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you taking a break. George, you fended off some incredibly stiff competition, of course, in this podcast category, likes of the Football Ramble and goodness knows whoever else. So it must be pleasing that Peter Crouch podcast, of course, compared to some of the others in the category, hasn't been around that long.
No, I think as well, for me as a producer, I listen to a lot of stuff, and it's really nice to be in the company of that kind of calibre of stuff that you listen to, you enjoy, and then you sort of take a step back, people have voted for you, and you take it and you go, that's really nice that everyone enjoys it as much as I do working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steve, I mean, obviously, like George, you probably do enjoy working on it. How do you keep the podcast sort of entertaining and fresh and people listening?
Ultimately, it's three lads in a pub having a chat, and I think we get a lot. Yeah, well, we get a lot of offers in terms of what you could do this or you could do that, or why don't you get this famous person on it? And I think you've got to keep it true to being three lads in a pub because that's what people enjoy. We're in season 3 now that's coming up in the new year, so there's a bit more production meetings going in. Just try and make sure we don't cover old ground because I think we need to make sure that we're keeping it fresh all the time. But if you just let them be them, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah. And what about Peter himself? Obviously, Mr. Crouch is not here, but I'd imagine he's a delight to work with. George, would you verify that for us?
Absolutely, yeah. He's, like I said on stage, he's exactly how you'd hope he'd come across. So when the first time you meet him, doesn't take himself too seriously. He's quite happy to sort of talk about stuff that you might never heard about. And he's also sort of really intrigued and interested about the podcast and how it's doing and what people are listening to it. So the fact that loads of people speak to him about the podcast more than his playing career is sort of, it's a bit weird for him, but he sort of embraces it, and that means that he embraces the pod, and it's a sort of pleasure to work with him on.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, Steve, how did it all come about, that Peter Crouch podcast?
The real reason is Tom Fordyce worked with him a little bit. Tom and I were on a train one night. It was very late. We started working out sort of the various things you could ask Peter Crouch about, and before we knew it, we had 20 odd different categories, and we went, this would be a great podcast. We then decided that Chris Starr could be the perfect person to put with them. We sat them down in a weird hotel in Stoke in the world's biggest conference room, and did an hour and a half, and was like, this is going to be good. So we went from there. Really, he had no idea what a podcast was at the start, like genuinely no idea, and like to the extent where we got him on the cheap because of it. But yeah, it was a delight, and yeah, there was no looking back from there really.
Well, congratulations again, gentlemen. Podcast of the year.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Cheers.
Nice one, lads.